Welcome to the quarterly Local Leader Lecture Series hosted by Central Penn College Education Foundation. Everyone is in for a very exciting lecture today, and I have the honor of presenting our speaker. My name is Dr. Linda Fedrizzi-Williams. I am the Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs here at Central Penn College. Our guest speaker today is Claudia Williams, who will be talking to you about Frientorship, inspiring leaders and engaging employees. Claudia is Chief Frientorship Officer at the Human Zone LLC. She inspires leaders, motivates employees, and helps businesses deliver the results they need by driving employee engagement and building thriving workplace culture. She founded her company, the Human Zone, after spending more than a decade as an attorney coaching leaders of organizations through challenging situations. A speaker and an author, Claudia developed Frientorship, an individual and team development model that encompasses key principles of friendship, mentorship, and leadership to bring out the best in leaders in order to build organizations. Prior to starting the Human Zone, Claudia served as Associate General Counsel for the Hershey Company. She received the PBA 2015 Special Achievement Award in recognition of her pro bono commitment to veterans and first responders. She was also named one of the Central Penn Business Journal's 25 Women of Influence and was selected for inclusion in the 2008, 10, 11, and 12 issues of Philadelphia Magazine's Super Lawyers. She serves as a member of the advisory board for the Salvation Army in Greater Harrisburg. Claudia lives in central Pennsylvania with her husband Steve and their 2 daughters. And before we begin, and I bring Claudia up, we have a tradition here at Central Penn College. And on behalf of our excellent speakers who come to these lecture series, we always present a Central Penn College Education Foundation scholarship to one deserving student in the presenter's name. And today I am very excited to present our lecture series scholarship to Jonathan Noss. So I'll ask Claudia to come on up as I tell you about Jonathan. She can award Jonathan with his scholarship. Jonathan is a first-year student at Central Penn College. He's the first one in his family to attend college. Jonathan is from Shermansdale. He's majoring in health science, pre-physician assistant with an impressive GPA of 3.75. Please join me in congratulating Jonathan. Congratulations, Jonathan. And now, what you've all been waiting for, it is my pleasure to introduce today's local lecture series speaker, Claudia Williams.
Time out of your lunch hour to come and be with us here today. I am very grateful to Central Penn College for having me, and I'm going to do my best to remember what I was told about the microphone. Okay, so I'm here because we have a problem, and it's a zombie apocalypse kind of problem. 80% of people, perhaps 80% of you, don't like your jobs. 87% of people aren't engaged at work. Or even worse, they're actively disengaged, which means they've gotten to the point of whatever. Actively disengaged employees cost companies anywhere between $450 and $550 billion each year. Individually, our misery is costing us our health, our happiness, and our relationships. We're zombies, just going through the motions. For the students in the room, it's sort of pretty dismal prospects to know that you have about an 80% chance that you're going to be miserable once you're done paying for your education. Bear with me. Millennials. Millennials are destined to make up about 70% of the workforce by 2020. And I'm going to be very clear that this is not a millennial bashing situation for me. I love millennials because I think millennials are bringing something to our workplaces that we desperately need and that frankly was fairly predictable if we paid attention to all of the signs. The Gallup organization estimates that the cost of turnover from the lack of millennial engagement alone will be about $30.5 billion. Huge, huge costs for our misery at work. Good employees with the right skills to get the job done well and be future leaders and be developed into leaders, they're harder and harder to come by and they're harder and harder to keep. Over half of employees are actively looking for jobs at any given time, which means if you're in a meeting, they're probably doing it from their phone while they're sitting right next to you. Sort of disheartening for the leaders. The pressure and challenges that we have on businesses now, we haven't really seen since the recession was coming to an end in 2010. So this is a big deal. How to find, keep the best people to do the jobs is the #1 challenge for CEOs in the country and a top challenge for CEOs around the world. So we need to build employee engagement. If we're going to build something, we need to know what it is we're talking about. What is engagement? It's a heightened emotional and intellectual connection that we have for our job, our organization, our manager, our coworkers, which influences us to put in the discretionary effort it takes to do the job. It's the discretionary effort. It's going above and beyond the 4 corners of a job description that determines ultimate success, not only for the individual, but for the company. Emotional and intellectual. That means we're talking about the heart and the mind. We spend a lot of time working on the mind, don't we? We go to school. When we're done with school, we're going to keep participating in continuing education classes to ensure we maintain our licenses. We're going to go to conferences. We're going to learn all kinds of things. We will constantly be stimulating our minds as we go through our careers. My question to all of you is, how much time are you spending on your heart? How much time are you spending working on developing the emotional connection that you need to be successful and that leaders need to keep people engaged? That's where Frientorship comes into play. Frientorship is the only program, process, thought that focuses on developing the heart. It's a combination of friendship, mentorship, and leadership. And we'll go through this, but if we leverage these principles, we will first individually make ourselves happier. We will learn how to make our teams happier. And happiness drives engagement, and engagement drives success. It's not the other way around. Success isn't what makes us happy. Happiness is what makes us successful. So before you think I've gone off the deep end and you have walked into a touchy-feely, mushy program, bear with me a little bit because I promise you it's substantive. Let's talk about friendship. Muhammad Ali, famous boxer. He said, friendship is the hardest thing in the world to explain. It's not something you learn in school, but if you haven't learned the meaning of friendship, you haven't really learned anything. Research shows that employees with close friendships at work have a more positive view overall of that company's culture. What do you get with great workplace friendships? You get higher employee retention, greater customer or client satisfaction, higher engagement, exceeding business results, transfer of knowledge when people are coming and going from the organization. There's no downside to learning how to have great workplace friendships. So this is the part where people start to say, Claudia, are you telling us that we're supposed to be friends with our employees, with our coworkers? Am I, as a leader, supposed to be friends with my team? Because look, when I'm cooking out on the weekend, I don't want to ask my employees to come over and cook out with me. That's what my friends are for. I'm challenging you to give up your stereotype of what friendship means and understand that friendship means different things in different contexts. I hear you. In my life as a lawyer, it was my job to understand and advise my clients on risk, right? So a client would come to me, they would have problems. My position was keep your personal life and your professional life separate. For goodness sake, don't be friends with anybody on Facebook. I mean, the last thing we want to do is understand what's going on in people's personal lives. It's hard to be a leader and make the difficult decisions we need to make if we have all these emotions tied up in these decisions. I have to tell you, I was wrong. I was really, really wrong to focus on risk only. Risk is a short-term gain. And so while I was trying to spare a leader from sitting in a deposition for 8 hours and being pulled out of doing the actual business, I was losing sight of the longer-term goals and successes of the organization. The short-term risk savings of maybe $10, $20, $30,000, maybe $100,000. No way does that outweigh the long-term gain of building the right connection with people and maintaining that connection and understanding what's happening in people's lives. I'm not alone in my legal thought process. So in 1987, Wall Street, I don't know if some of the students in the room are old enough to have seen Wall Street, but it's a good one. I recommend you go back and watch it. Look, Gordon Gekko, give me guys that are poor, smart, and hungry and no feelings. You win a few, you lose a few, but you keep on fighting. If you want a friend, get a dog. It's trench warfare out there, pal. 1987, still a very common approach to business today. It goes beyond this. And there's science that backs up this feeling of friendship that we need to have at work. Maslow, I don't know, 5th grade science maybe when we started talking about Maslow and his hierarchy of needs. At the bottom we have our physiological needs. Food, air, water, sleep. Above that we have safety. We need to feel a sense of security, a sense of safety. Love and belonging, smack dab in the middle of that pyramid. We need to feel like we have a sense of family, of community, esteem. We need to be recognized and rewarded for what we do. And at the very top, self-actualization. That's our intrinsic need to be the best at whatever we're doing. Maslow never said, this is for your personal life only. Turn this off when you go to work. This is what we need every day. And if we're spending 8 or 10 hours, multiple days a week at doing a job, and we take love and belonging out of the pyramid, everything falls apart. It's not the same pyramid. Science tells us we need to have that feeling of love and belonging, the connectivity to people at work, not just in our home or in our community. We can't and we shouldn't turn it off at work if we want to deliver the best results we can. So the ultimate question for all of you is who's got your back? We love to build people up. It's what we do. And then we stand to the side and we watch them make mistakes, human mistakes, that ultimately can cost them their careers, like having one too many drinks at the company party and maybe doing something we live to regret, or saying something that goes just a bit too far and never reeling it back in or owning it. We need someone to tell us when we've been too hard on someone in a meeting, or to challenge us to look at something a little bit differently, and we have to be open to that feedback. In other words, we need someone to save us from ourselves because we're human and we're going to make mistakes along the way. And that's what great work friends do. When I was working at the Hershey Company, I am technically impaired today. I had what I called my chocolate posse. So I ate a lot of those guys while I was there. But I had my core group of work friends. And I knew I could go to them when I needed to. So for example, 3 months into my job, I had to take the place of my boss, the general counsel. And I had to go sit in a meeting with the corporate board of directors, with people like former Governor Ridge and CEOs of massive global companies from all around the world. And I had to be the acting general counsel for this meeting. 3 months there, no one knew me. I barely knew people. And I went to my work friends, whom I called my chocolate posse. I went to my posse and I said, guys, I have a very rumbly stomach and it's going to rumble every second until this meeting and all through the meeting, and I'm a nervous wreck and I'm not sure I can do this. Here's the great thing about a great posse. They're not going to use my vulnerability against me. That's what great friends do. That's what our personal friends do, right? We rely on them to confide in them and not have it turned around and used against us. So they'll laugh at me for sure, because that's what friends do. And they're not going to tell me what I want to hear. They're going to tell me what I need to hear. That's why we have to be open to that feedback. So you need a posse. Everyone needs a posse, and you'll have multiple posses throughout your lives, throughout your careers, and each posse will serve a little bit of a different purpose. So how do you build a great posse? You cannot have any kind of friendship or relationship without three key elements: trust, loyalty, and respect. They're the foundations for our personal relationships. They are the foundations for our best professional relationships. That's why, if you go back to when I said I'm challenging you to think about friendship a little bit differently, the core values are the same. You can't be friends with someone at work if you don't trust them. You can't share information if there's no respect and trust. Exact same concepts. I'd like somebody to come up here and do a little exercise with me. Who's willing to help me for 1 second? I promise it won't be terrible. Come on up. Thank you. And you have to stand in the light so they can see you perfectly on the video. Simple exercise. Here's a balloon. Do me a favor, start blowing up that balloon. So I don't know about you guys, but when I'm blowing up a balloon, right, big breath, we give it all we have, it's still not done. We have to take another deep breath. Still not done. Another deep breath. Now, don't tie it off or anything, but when you feel like you've got it, just hold on to it there. That's relationships. It's work. And it's something we keep doing over and over again, right? And it takes a while to build the trust, loyalty, and respect that we just blew into this balloon. Do me a favor and just let go of the balloon. And remind me your name.
Glenda.
Glenda. Thank you, Glenda.
I'm going to get that for you.
That's okay. Thanks so much. All right. As quickly as the air went out of the balloon is as quickly as the trust, loyalty, and respect can go out of a friendship. So it is something that requires work and maintenance. We can't let go or we'll lose it. And we can't burst the loyalty, the trust, or respect, or it's gone. And you know, if it's ever happened, that it takes a lot of work to build it back up. So how are you going to build your posse? 3 key points I want you to walk away with. 3 simple things you can do to build great relationships. Share, shine, and speak. Share. Share yourself. Let people get to know you, not just who you are and what you do at work. Let people get to know more about who you are as a person. What are the small ways they can connect to you? Do you have pictures of your kids up around your office? Do you have favorite hobbies and things you like to do? These are the things that you want to share over time to make the little connections that will build lasting relationships. It's the investment people make in caring about you. And one of the easiest things you can do when you're walking around is to stop and pay attention. We tend to put things around our school cubbies or in our school desks. We had our research libraries when I was in law school, and we could decorate them and do whatever we wanted with them. We put things on and around our workspaces that are meaningful and important to us. We are sharing. So accept the invitation that you're getting from people on a daily basis and start asking about it. Oh, is that your daughter? Oh, I see you have an award. Tell me what that's about. Over time, these little moments will add up, and you are slowly building great relationships built on trust, loyalty, and respect. The second point, shine. Nobody likes to be around the most negative person. I'm one of 4 girls in my family. My oldest sister is the negative. She's the Eeyore with the dark cloud following her around and the rain pouring from it on a regular basis. And she is my sister, so I love her dearly. But you know, there's only so much you can take of that person. And then you put some distance up. She's my sister, so I will love her always, and I will always be there for her. But with friends, don't we get to a point where we say enough is enough? You've got to perk up, or we have to find a way to make this better, or this is not going to work for me. Vampire. Don't be a vampire sucking the energy and life out of the people around you. Be the sun. Shine. Let your personality shine. Let people see you for the wonderful person you are and the hopes and dreams that you have. You will make connections that way. So don't be the vampire. Be the sun. Speak. Use your voice. The point here goes back to my chocolate posse. You have an opportunity to help shape lives every day, including your own. And we'll talk more in the mentorship piece about how we do that. But use the voice you have, as long as you're using it in an emotionally correct way. That means we're sensitive to the needs and wants of other people. Having a conversation with someone else to learn about them is not a conversation where we're talking about ourselves. We're trying to understand more about that person. The questions will be reciprocated. But for anyone who's in a business right now where you have to sell something, for example, if you walk in and you're talking about yourself and your product, people are going to tune out. I don't listen when somebody comes up and says, I have something really great for you, and I'm this and I'm that. Right away, my hand goes up. No. Don't you want to learn about me? That's what forming a great relationship is about. It's about learning about someone else, and that person will then want to learn about you. So use your voice. As kids, we're told by our parents and teachers to treat others the way they want to be treated, the way we want to be treated. And my friend John calls it the golden rule. It's called the golden rule. And I say, forget it. You need to treat others the way they want to be treated because we are all different. And your needs might not be the same as your needs or my needs. So we need to find out what makes other people tick. And we need to reach out in those meaningful ways. Let's talk about mentorship. What is it? It's a relationship we have with a trusted counselor, advisor, or teacher. It's about informal teaching. Those of you in school, there's a very formal process of teaching, and we continue that process. Mentorship is informal. Most importantly, it's my responsibility to know what I know, and my responsibility to know what I don't know, and to find the people who can help me fill those gaps. It's my responsibility to seek it out. We need to stop waiting for someone to come and do something for us all the time. When we start jobs, and for students in the room, when you start your job, you're going to be waiting for someone to come to you and say, what can I do for you? What do you need? How can I help you? And it just doesn't work that way. We need to go in and say, I've given this a lot of thought, and I think I'm really good at this, and I'm not so good at that, and I would like for you to please help me figure out how I can be better at that. Here are my ideas. What are yours? Who do you know who can help me with that? Own it. People at all levels in an organization can be mentors. So it's not just about the strict org chart, and we need to stop looking only vertically when we're going for help. Life experiences may determine a lot about someone's strengths. Life experiences don't necessarily show up in an org chart. So for those of you starting jobs, for those of you in your jobs, look beyond the box. Look beyond the structure. Look horizontally and vertically when you're looking for internal mentor relationships. Millennials can learn a lot from boomers. Boomers can learn a lot from millennials. Men can learn a lot from women and vice versa. Find people who don't look just like you. You want to talk about our struggle to build diversity and inclusion in organizations? Seek out people who look different from you and build those relationships. It doesn't have to take a lot of time to be a mentor or a mentee. It's a cup of coffee once in a while. It's a very purposeful approach to how we're using our time. It's having a reason to meet, not just saying, let's connect for lunch and catch up. So approach every interaction with a purpose and end every interaction with, is there anything I can do for you? Can you imagine? Talk about mutually beneficial relationships and building the friendship piece of it. Thank you so much for your help. Is there anything I can do for you? And if not right now, don't hesitate to let me know when I can. Why is it so important? Because being and having a mentor makes us more engaged in our jobs. And the research shows that people who are mentored or people who serve as mentees earn more money over the course of their careers. Of course they do, because they're the ones taking the actions to improve the skills they need to continue to get the next better job, whatever that job may be, internally or externally. Not that I'm encouraging you to leave jobs. LinkedIn can be a great resource for finding people with the particular skill or experience that you need to develop. So don't be a prisoner of the walls you work in either. Use the technology that you have to find people who can help you build your skills. How do you do it? Self-evaluate, seek, and respect. 3 keys. Self-evaluate. You have to understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. And we'll talk about self-awareness in a minute. Take a good look at yourself. Study the work experiences, study the life experiences that you've had in the past. How have they shaped you? What are you really good at? What are you not so good at? What do you wish you could be better at? You need to understand that before you can seek out the right relationship to help you fill those gaps. Seek. Find the people who have what you lack. It might not be obvious, so ask the people around you if you aren't sure. Hey, do you know anybody who's really good at networking? It's not my strength. I want to get better at it, I'm not sure where to start. You'll get answers. All you need to do is ask the right questions. And respect. Respect our most valuable resource, our time. This is why I say it doesn't have to take a lot of time, as long as we are purposeful and meaningful in our approach to learning. Let's talk about leadership. Leadership isn't something reserved for the boss of an organization. Leadership is not reserved for a CEO. Every single one of us is a leader on our career journey. When you think about the characteristics of a great leader, what comes to mind? And I want you to shout it out, and I'll speak it into the microphone so we capture it. What characteristics come to mind when you think about a great leader? Shout them out.
Listener.
Listener. What else? There are so many.
Taking charge.
Taking charge.
Visionary.
Sorry? Managing. Visionary. What else? When you think of a great leader, think of the best leader you've ever had. What characteristics come to mind?
Good communicator.
Communication. Good communicator.
Influencer.
Influencer. Very different word from boss. Influencer.
Motivational.
Motivational.
Leads by example.
Leads by example.
Works well with others.
Works well with others. Ability to get along.
Caring.
Caring. Cares about who you are and what you need on any particular day. Anything else?
Supportive.
Supportive. So I heard words. If you go back to my heart and mind graphic in the beginning, how many words in there do you think fell on the mind side versus the heart side? The words you used to describe the great leaders that you've had all came from the heart. It wasn't the smartest person in the room. It wasn't extremely skilled and knowledgeable. It was all things that focused on the heart. Making the connection now between why we need to focus on the heart as we go through these journeys. When I think about a great leader, there's someone very special who comes to mind for me. My dad. This picture is circa 1960 in Germany when he was on a break from his service in the army. My dad, in the days and hours leading up to his death, wrote his own obituary. I want to share a little bit of that with you. Listen to these words. Having been born on August 25, 1935, I lived a personally fulfilling life until July 23, 2016. I was, however, reborn several times. First time, June 1963. Second time, October 1965. Third time, May 1970. Fourth time, October 1974. I will always be with my 4 daughters, their 3 husbands whom I considered my sons, and my 5 grandchildren. The legacy I leave to the living world is my 4 educated daughters. They're a credit to themselves, their families, their professions, and the communities where they reside and work. Peace and good health forever. Obituary. It's the resume of your life. Your professional resumes are what get you jobs as you move through your career. But your life resume, your obituary, tells your story when you're done living it. So if you think about all of the obituaries you've read, who usually writes it? The survivors, the family members, right? Have you ever come across an obituary written in first person and in present tense? Wow. So here he is, fighting cancer, knowing he's losing the fight and saying, I'm going to write my obituary. He didn't write a single word about what he, Frank Marino, personally accomplished. Not that he was the first in his family to go to college, not that he started his own business, not that he won many awards as a young man, nothing about what he did, not how much money he made. None of it mattered to him. He was focused on the future, his legacy, his children, his team, if you will. And what made him a great leader wasn't how much money he made or what he personally accomplished. What made him a great leader was how he trained and nurtured and developed that team to be able to rise up and lead our family when he stopped being our leader. That's leadership. That's great leader status. And if you want to achieve great leader status, I promise you, you need all of the characteristics that you all described, but you cannot do it without self-awareness, accountability, and communication. So let's start with self-awareness. Meet my preteen daughter, Morena. Vaguely resembles a disgruntled employee. So one day I'm walking our dog with her, and our dog is really strong, and I am that dog owner where the dog walks me and is dragging me down the street like this. So she looked at me and said, Mama, when can I walk Katie by myself? And I said, well, honey, maybe in a couple of years when you're a little older and a little stronger, and she's a little older and a little less strong. And she started going like this, And she's tapping, and I can see the hamster wheel spinning in there. And she looked up at me and she said, by then, I'll be 14 or 15, and isn't it the time when I'm so wrapped up in myself and wanting to be with my friends that I'm not going to want to hang out with you or walk the dog? And in pointing out the obvious here, I said, well, Morena, if you know yourself and you want to avoid becoming that person, then it shouldn't be a problem, because that's something called self-awareness, but in a very preteen sort of way. So what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is an understanding that every thought has an origin, and the origin is the makeup of that person. It's understanding why we think and feel the things we do. Where did it come from? Is it something we were taught? Is it something we experienced that shaped us? So my dad, whom I just described, was a pretty great dad. Flawed, not perfect, like all leaders, not perfect. When I was in 3rd grade, so we're going back a few years, he was working in his pharmacy. And in those days, the independent pharmacies were open late at night. So his was open until 10. Shortly before closing, 2 men walked into the pharmacy and pulled out their guns. They cleaned the shelves of the drugs. They had him empty the safe. And then they turned the corner and they said, "What's that?" And he said, "That's the stairs to the basement." Very rough, unfinished basement in an old building in Utica, New York. And they said, "Go down the steps." And he started going down the steps and he went to turn on the light and they said, "Turn the light off." So he turned the light off and he went down the steps. He got to the bottom of the stairs. They told him to get on his knees and they put the gun to his head and said, "Count to 100 and don't come up until you get to 100. He never thought he was coming up from the basement of his store that evening. So he counted to 500. And then he got up and he went up and he realized he was okay. But that experience forever shaped him in a way that impacted his children. So I, for example, was not allowed to have my African American friends sleep over at my house. Nor were my sisters. Because he took the behavior and actions of 2 African American men and attributed it to an entire class of people. And it wasn't until he was about 70 that he started talking to us about it and saying, "I've been thinking about a lot of things and I want you to know that I was wrong. I was so wrong to not let you girls have relationships with people because of the color of their skin. And I'm just sorry that it took me this long to figure that out and to understand what I did." So self-awareness comes at different times in our lives and for different reasons. But getting there is the important part, and owning it and understanding why what happens or what we learn becomes who we are. And he followed up his statement with, "I'm so glad that you didn't carry on my baggage and that we grew up to learn and do the things that we thought and believed were right deep down." So think about that. There are a couple of different kinds of self-awareness. There's public self-awareness and private self-awareness. Public is our perception of what others think of us, and private self-awareness is what we think of ourselves. When we take the private self-awareness too far, it becomes self-consciousness. And so we're trying to be aware but not self-conscious, where we're fidgeting with our outfit or making sure our hair looks okay or checking the mirror 5 times, or if I'm sitting here and somebody starts dozing off, am I to assume that I'm really terrible, or maybe you just had a huge lunch? Self-consciousness takes it a little bit too far. Our goal is to find the right level of self-awareness so that we understand ourselves and we can work on ourselves. Why is it so important? It's an essential element of building trust, which takes us back to friendship as an essential foundation of friendship. Sometimes what we think we can do is not exactly what we can do. So it plays a huge part in understanding our strengths and weaknesses. And when we have a high level of self-awareness, we're able to hold ourselves and those around us accountable. You own your decisions, and you're accountable to your family, your friends, your clients, your coworkers, your teachers, to each other, and to yourselves. One day I was going through my daughter Carissa's school papers, and she was in 4th grade at the time, and I pulled out a math test and I saw something that vaguely resembled my husband's squiggly signature, so showed it to him, and I said, "Steve, can you sign her test?" And he looked at it and he said, "Nope." I said, "Okay, well, she forged your signature, so you're the one who has to talk to her about it. I'm off the hook for this parenting moment." And then I saw my daughter a little later and I said, "Carissa, did Daddy talk to you about this math test?" And she said, "Yes. He told me that I committed a crime and I could go to jail, so I better not tell my teacher." My husband's a lawyer and he totally lawyered her up over a math test signature. As parents, it's our job to teach our kids to be accountable. And as leaders, our kids are our employees. Well, I went to Carissa and I said, no, you will go to school tomorrow, you will tell your teacher what you did, and you will accept the consequences, whatever they may be. I ran into her teacher and I said, "Hey, did Carissa talk to you about that test?" And he said, "Yes, she did." And he started to laugh and he said, "She told me she forgitated her dad's signature." and that her dad told her she could go to jail, but her mom told her she had to be accountable, so she had to come tell me what she did. I'll take the wins wherever I can get them. We have to teach our employees to be accountable and to own their mistakes, which means we have to teach them that mistakes are okay. We have to stop expecting perfection. We have to stop expecting our employees to do the job the way we do it now, because we have years of experience that they don't have. Accountability is a round-the-clock obligation. Employees who carry their weight and behave appropriately lose respect for leaders who don't hold others to those same standards. And when they lose respect, they lose their will to put in the extra discretionary effort. Remember the definition of employee engagement, that discretionary effort? They've lost their will to put in the discretionary effort. And when they lose their will, the zombie starts to creep in. And they might do enough to get the job done for the time being while they're on their phone sitting next to you in a meeting looking for another job. But doing enough just isn't good enough anymore. Let's talk about communication. A great leader communicates goals. If you're aiming for nothing, that is exactly what you'll hit every time. An expectation that isn't effectively communicated is nothing more than meaningless words, and it will result only in frustration for the leaders and for the people who are so desperately trying to please them. Communication is what will transform you from a boss into a leader. Most importantly, you cannot get anyone to agree with you if they don't listen to you first. The most important part of communication is listening. And that means you aren't formulating the response while the person is still talking. Because once you start saying the words in your mind and you're formulating your response, you have stopped listening, you have tuned them out, and you're not going to hear their entire message. The best way to stop yourself from doing that is to talk yourself out of talking, to listen and force yourself to repeat what the person just said to you so that you can make sure you understand. If I understand you correctly, your concern is fill in the blank. This is a great technique for the difficult conversations. You're letting the person know that you're hearing them. When they feel they're being heard, they're far more inclined to listen to what it is you have to say, even if it isn't good. The single greatest communication failure is the annual performance review. For those of you who haven't had one yet, and as you're entering your careers, you're going to realize that it pretty much sucks. Nothing should ever come as a surprise. I learned this as a little kid because my first performance review came in the form of one question. Have you been naughty or nice? And that answer would determine whether Santa was going to bring me coal or presents. Can you imagine if parents didn't coach and shape behavior along the way? But when you get to your jobs, you may find that's exactly what happens. The difference is it's about a pay raise or a bonus or even job security when you get to that point. Nothing should ever come as a surprise. Communication methodology. We're quick to shoot off a text or an email, and let's face it, text and email come in very handy in certain circumstances. But we need to stop hiding behind our screens when it comes to having difficult conversations. Here's how we can select the best way. If you can say it in person, please set up a meeting or find a way to say it in person. If that isn't possible because of geography or schedule conflicts or some other problem, then pick up a phone and make a call. And if that isn't possible, okay, send a message, but send a very thoughtful and purposeful message. And after you draft it, sit back and say, not only is this sending the message I want to send, but how might it be perceived by whoever's getting it? It's the perception that will cause you to go back and fix your tone. The tone you don't intend, but you may not see the first time you write it. And do your very best to never have a difficult conversation in writing. Those are meant for face-to-face communications. It's hard to build trust, which we need for every great relationship when we hide behind those screens. It's hard to build relationships in 140 characters or in a text message or with an emoji. Not saying they don't come in handy, and it is absolutely a way that we need to connect. But be thoughtful and purposeful about the methodology you choose based on what the situation is. So if we put together friendship, mentorship, and leadership, we have frientorship. And look, we can keep going the way we are, it's just fine. And businesses will continue to lose billions of dollars each year. Employees will continue to be miserable. We'll change jobs every 2 years. There will be no continuity. There will be no long-term success. Or we can spend the time we need to spend focusing on the heart and engaging the principles of friendship, and the result will be fully engaged individuals and fully engaged teams. We can take charge of our individual workplace and career happiness, and we can cascade these principles throughout our teams and our organizations, and we can change the way we approach workplace. If I had a Venn diagram, friendship and mentorship are the two bottom pieces, and they're holding leadership up. Smack dab in the center where the three intersect, that's employee engagement. That's true engagement. And typically in a 2 or 3 hour workshop, we're diving into a lot more stuff and a lot more detail. So I wanted to give you some key highlights today. But that's the golden nugget that we're striving for. So start building your leadership legacy like my dad did, one relationship at a time. And you're focused on the future and making sure the people that you're leaving behind are ready to stand up and lead when you're done leading. That's frientorship. And with that, I'd be happy to take some questions. Well, I must have done a great job, so thank you very much. You know, there's so much, and the biggest challenge that I think people face is on the friendship piece of this. I feel like we are really good at understanding how to find mentors, and we're trying to be more purposeful in our approach to it. And leadership, okay, we can focus on developing leadership skills, but I'm really challenging you when it comes to the friendship piece of it, because yes, you can, and yes, you should be friends with people at work. It doesn't mean you're going to happy hour with them or inviting them to your house for the cookout on the weekend. But I had a leader say to me a couple of weeks ago, you know, my whole team was standing around the water cooler talking about the great time they had at so-and-so's house, at Jane's house on Friday night, and I felt kind of hurt that I wasn't invited. And I said, what kind of relationship do you have with them? Why would they invite you? So make the connections and get invited to the party. Thank you.